Everyone. My name is Sean McVeigh, online marketing strategist here at Hinge. Hinge Marketing is a branding and marketing firm that specializes in professional services. Today's webinar is titled Online Video for Professional Services. During the next 45 minutes, you will learn types of online video for professional services, uses and benefits of online video, elements that drive production costs, and real-life examples of firms using online video. Our moderator today is Sylvia Montgomery, partner at Hinge, where she leads the outsourced marketing practice. She's been working with B2B firms for the past 20 years, primarily in the areas of technology, management consulting, and AEC. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thanks, Sean. I'm happy to be here, and I'm very excited to have everyone joining us today. I'm also pleased to introduce everyone to our guest, Dane Fredrickson. Dane has over 16 years of media production experience with companies such as Sony, Microsoft, Electronic Arts, Ubisoft, Discovery Channel, National Geographic, USA Today, and many more. His strengths include the development of big ideas for marketing and the pioneering of high engagement brand content for interactive digital media. In other words, he is an expert in making media that people want, and he's joining us today from San Francisco. Welcome, Dane.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
So as Sean mentioned, we're going to be covering a number of things related to online video. In particular, to the use of online video professional services. We're going to be looking at some of the drivers that have increased the usage, some of the benefits, and really giving you a perspective on the elements that drive the production costs. So what is happening in the world of online video today? And as I know everybody out there is familiar with, YouTube is really the place where the eyeballs are going. So 2 billion streams a day are taking place in YouTube. And the average viewer is watching over 30 minutes a day online. Interestingly enough, ComScore, which is a leader in the measuring of the usage of digital, yesterday released data that shows that 174 million U.S. internet users watched online video content in March for the average of 14.8 hours per viewer. That is amazing. Total U.S. internet audience engaged in more than 5.7 billion viewing sessions during the course of the month. And you might think, well, that's great, that's for the consumer brands, but according to a recent Forbes Insight report, senior executives, were highlighted as 75% of them watching work-related videos at least twice weekly, and 42% of them making a business decision based on video. So when it comes to video, that is where the engagement is taking place. And that's really the reason why we decided to offer this webinar, because for professional services, what we're finding is that the channel of online video is a really good vehicle for not only conveying the culture of your firm, but also driving the stickiness within your website. So let's talk a little bit about what the business challenges are that video is addressing, and in particular, how they're related to professional services. So we're looking at online video helping with the driving of awareness, education, conversion, and relationship. Dane, what are some of your thoughts on these, vehicles that online video is driving as related to the business?
Well, I think it's helpful to to look at the different uses for how video can be used. I think a lot of marketers kind of know that they should be doing video or sensing that or starting to do that, but just thinking a little bit about what your business goals are, and then seeing how video can be used to address those. So maybe nobody knows who you are yet, so you want to use video to address awareness, or maybe you have a service or something like that you want to articulate and educate your customers about, or maybe they're already in the market and you can use video to really show why you guys are the best and why they should hire you. Or it could be after they're already a client, maintaining that relationship with social media or some other sort of video in a relationship way.
Well, and that's That's very helpful to think about it in those terms when you think about the usage of online video as related to the sales cycle and really how to nurture prospects through it. The benefits of online video are fairly obvious to some, but in professional services, I think there's still a lot of people trying to understand what the benefits are. We talk about it in the context of it's the vehicle that's exceptional for building credibility, relatability, and really telling the story. In addition to that, it really lends itself for using throughout your social media, whether it's content marketing or blogs. Um, but is there anything else that you could add to the benefits of online video?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you sort of touched on one of those is that you can't be everywhere at once, and people like to put a name with a face, and I think that it's a great way for people to see what you're like and get to know you and or your employees, or to hear your clients talk about what a great job that you did, and to see the sort of subtle signs on their face that we all as humans seem to need to be able to judge how authentic and realistic their comments are. So I think it's a great way to humanize something that you're saying, and it's a great way to show and tell anything that you have. If you're an architect and you want to show your building, I mean, what better way? I mean, unless someone's going to come on site, they can look at a photo, but video will really kind of take you there in a different way.
Well, and we've asked a number of professional services firms, kind of taken an official poll of companies that are looking to invest in online video in 2011, and right now we're hearing very favorable responses towards it's definitely something that they want to invest in. I think again the question is do professional services have a very solid understanding of the value, how to plan and budget for it, and also what their role is. So that's one of the things that we really want to dive in here. Where do you see the increase in online video coming from?
Well, I think there's been a couple advances in technology that have happened. The broadband internet access rate adoption rate has increased. It's not a novelty to have broadband internet anymore, and that gave rise to the ability to stream more video, like YouTube, several years ago. Also, the production equipment has gotten a lot cheaper. Not only are professional video cameras and editing software and computers a little bit more accessible than they used to be in price, but also now we all have a camera in our pocket. So the tools are out there, and you can even video edit on your iPhone now. So again, there's a little bit of a democratization of the tools. But I think also one note is that I always like to point out is, everyone has a word processor, but that doesn't mean that you're Hemingway. So just because we have these tools, they're out there, that just means that there's more stuff. And that's why you've got YouTube, which is full of stuff, but you really want to, as a professional service firms, you're going to want to be professional and stand out and put your best foot forward, not just do it just to do it.
Well, and you don't want to just be throwing content up there for the sake of having something. So, there's obviously more channels. Channels need content, so there's this vicious cycle. But you want to make sure that the content and the face that you put out is consistent with your overall brand objectives. So let's move on and talk a little bit about what are some of the actual uses for professional services. And what we're seeing is an increase in the development of what we call, the overview video or the story of your firm. I know that you worked with us on the Quinn Evans overview story, commemorating their 25 years in business, quinnevans.com. But we're also seeing a lot of desire for case stories, video blog posts, special projects, recruitment videos, talking about the culture of a firm, and even RFP submissions. I know that we worked with an architecture firm, and they were bidding on a project, and the RFP submission was limited to 5 written pages and a 10-minute video. So very interesting considering that's, in the AEC industry. But what I'd like to do, Dane, is ask you to kind of share with us a little bit about what some of the production cost drivers are as you look to developing these kinds of video tools for your firm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it probably stands to reason that the more time you spend planning something, the better end quality product you're going to get, and that's definitely true with video production. You don't want to just show up with a camera and start shooting. You want to have a plan, and you want to make sure that you have the talent, someone that knows how to use the tools, someone who's experienced. There's definitely a time and a place for the sort of handheld blog video, shaky cam YouTube style video, but if you're really trying to present your company in the best light, you want to make sure that you've got someone with the skills to be able to, to make it look presentable. And then with those skills, you'll also need the tools, the camera, the editing equipment, all that stuff. And you know, there's definitely incremental steps you can take with equipment to increase quality, and your producer can help guide you through that and help you pick where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, depending on what you need in your product.
And I think some of the things that people forget often is that the time is going to be driven by the geographic location of the venues that you're shooting and the people you're shooting. So, if you're in the DC area, for example, the traffic here is horrific as it is in most major cities. So, you can plan to do video of 5 different sites. At best, you might be able to do 2. Also, in professional services, you're dealing with people's time, people's billable time. So, making sure that you can allocate those resources for the appropriate amount of time, because they're going to need to feel comfortable with the video producer. They're going to need to be able to feel comfortable with the material. It's very different to be videotaped, to be in front of the camera. So again, it takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with that, and that's the time that you have to allow. And finally, there's also permits. I know that you've worked with us on the moving through the permit. And what words of wisdom do you have for our attendees on that front?
Well, I think it's just important to know that when you're shooting video, it's a little bit different than just using using a camera when you're on vacation or whatever. In order to shoot video in certain locations, you will need permits. Like if you're shooting in downtown DC, or there will be certain places where you can't shoot for whatever reasons. So let's say like a construction site, there might be something happening where you're not going to be able to get access on the day that you want. And then, like you mentioned, the access to the people. People are busy, they have their hectic schedules, and they may be in several different locations. So just, working with your producer to plan out what's a realistic timeline to, get from point A to point B, and then, are you going to be able to get in where you want to be and get access to the person you want?
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the different kinds of video quality and cost. And this was very helpful when you were taking me through the different kinds, so I thought it would also be helpful for our viewers. And the way you've divided them is into 5 categories: amateur, semi-pro, professional, premium, and Hollywood. And for each of these, we're going to talk about what some of the criteria is, and we are also going to include links to those particular videos when we send out the slide deck to participants. So don't fear if you can't, get a full feel for the video in the time that we have today. So let's go to the first one. Talk to us a little bit about what you can expect to find in an amateur level video.
Well, I think this is sort of the video that we've all seen a million times on YouTube or something like that. It's shot with a little camera, maybe your phone, and it's sort of what I call the microwave burrito version. You do it yourself. It'll fill you up. It won't be special, but you can get it done. Also, the homemade tree house. You can cobble it together, and it may suit your needs, but it's just not going to be fancy, and in all likelihood, probably not quite professional enough. And frankly, you're busy. You've got a job to do. Do you really want to spend your time, shooting and editing and getting all that stuff worked out? Um, I think in most cases, not quite good enough for a professional services firm. But certainly, there's a time and a place where this may make sense.
Okay. So then if we look at the next step up, we're looking at semi-pro. And this is an example in the links that we're sharing with our viewers. What you're seeing is someone that has a video set up on a tripod so you don't get that shaky feeling. But what else are some of the characteristics of this type of an approach?
Well, this kind of approach, it'll be a little bit better. It won't be sensational or anything, but it'll be someone who has some familiarity with a little bit more advanced camera techniques, or maybe they have a camera, but probably not someone who does this full time. Sort of what I call the taco truck version. I mean, it's a little bit better than doing it yourself, but it's just not that great. You can get a little bit better quality, and again, maybe for a blog post or something like that, if you just sort of want to show that, hey, we had a cocktail reception and here's some people having fun, you just want to show some shots of it, maybe put some music behind it, that might be okay. And certainly a little bit more expensive than free, but well within the range of what most people can afford. But again, I think the danger here is that you spend a lot of time and effort presenting your company in the best light, and this isn't quite there yet. This is gonna, on a professional website, will probably feel like the weak link, if you will.
So this is kind of like hiring your cousin, the videographer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's take a look at the professional category. And this is one where I think we're beginning to get into the realm of what a professional services might consider. So talk to us a little bit about the criteria here.
Yeah, so this is sort of like, this is the work of a professional, someone who does this for a living, so a little bit higher budget. You're going to need to think about how much do I need to pay a person that does this every day in order for them to make a living? Because otherwise, if they're not doing it every day, how good can they be? They're not really a professional. So it does start to get a little bit more expensive, but this is the level where you don't really need to feel like you're apologizing for it. It might not be, have that sizzle, it might not razzle dazzle, but certainly for most of the lower level videos that you do on maybe like a case study or something like that, it'll be perfectly fine and perfectly respectable. But I don't think you're going to quite get the sizzle that you could at the premium level.
Well, and there's always the question of what's the greatest barrier to the use of online video, and we know that value. What am I going to pay for it, and also, what's the ROI that I'm going to get from it? Those are two things that are very, very top of mind. So, from an ROI perspective, we're looking at engaging with prospective employees. We're looking at, a vehicle for business development because, now you're going one-to-many as opposed to one-to-one. So those are some of the benefits that are associated with it. And, tell us a little bit about what a professional services firm could be looking at investing in something like this.
In the professional version?
Yes.
I think, if you want to get a short video, you could do something potentially in a day or two with a crew and a 1 or 2 day edit for the in the couple $1,000 range, depending on who you can find and how much you're shooting and how long all that takes. But this is well within the ballpark, I think, of what most professional services firms can do. And again, I think this is perfectly respectable. I think for me, though, all the lessons that I've learned is that in this crowded marketplace of the internet, you really need to stand out. And while this is professional, I don't know that you're going to really stand out the way that you could with a little bit of extra, searching for the quality premium person that's going to be able to really help you engage on that higher level.
So is that next category what you define as a premium?
Yeah, exactly. This is what we're talking about, that wow factor. There's a lot, again, people are watching a lot of video, they're spending a lot of time, viewing content. So how are you going to stand out? Well, here's your opportunity. go for a premium experience. You probably, as a professional services firm, know the value of marketing yourself as a premium service provider. Well, this is the way to look premium, is to spend a little bit of extra money adding that sizzle. And so working with the right producer who's talented, you can help optimize your budget to, maybe you need to, work a little, focus on the cinematography is where you can really make it stand out. Or maybe it's the editing, or a little bit of both. Or maybe it's motion graphics that you need to really, engage. I think that's really the buzzword that I'm seeing a lot of, is engagement. And it is going to be a higher cost, but really when you think about your business goals of what you're trying to do, and I know that business development is a high priority. Well, if you're trying to stand out and get that business, you need to engage to stand out, and this is the way to do it.
Do you need to have a lot of assets already in-house to be able to do this kind of a video?
No, I think that's certain.
Like photography and stuff like that?
No, I don't think that you need to. That certainly is it's an asset, but it's not necessary. I've done creative pieces using just text alone and animating the text. So, I think the idea is that if you have a lot of assets, you can do a lot more in the editing end with photos, or if you have other video assets, things like that. You can use a lot of that in edit to make things really sizzle. But if you don't have the assets, maybe spending a little bit more time in planning to come up with a really engaging concept, and then you could do something very clever if you have the time to plan it out and the right talent involved. You could do something very exciting with just text alone and maybe animate it.
Well, and going back to the planning piece, again, if you can map out what your goals and objectives are, you might be able to, in a day, not only capture some interviews, but some B-roll, and then do a couple of blog entries. So again, you're maximizing the professional talent that you've hired and the resources and availability of your staff to get as much of an output as possible.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the ways to get the most bang for your buck, is spending a little extra time planning. How can I, with one video shoot day, turn that into multiple videos or multiple types of videos? So maybe during an interview you cover several different topics, and then potentially each one of those is a separate video. So again, working with a talented producer, I think that you'll be able to find ways to squeeze the most out of your time.
Well, as a professional services firm, you might have one of your principals talk about the service offering and then do another cut and talk about a project.
Exactly.
And right there, you have the makings of two videos.
Yeah, we all have to work smarter these days, but I think that
Exactly.
there's definitely ways to do that.
And there's one last category, which just to kind of put some boundaries out there, is what you define the Hollywood type.
Yeah, I think this is really sort of just showing that, I think for most professional services firms, a budget of $100,000 plus is not realistic, and so it's probably helpful to look at, what does it really take to get some of the things that you might want. A lot of clients, especially if they're new to video, have a little bit of unrealistic expectations about what happens, in movie magic. It's very easy to watch a video and not really know how to deconstruct it about what it actually took to get there. So, if you're doing fancy things, these are sort of joke photos here about, helicopters and yachts and mansions, but really the idea is there are going to be some limits to how fancy the motion graphics can be, how many locations you can visit, helicopter shots, that sort of stuff. So certainly if you've got the budget, you can have anything you want, but I think it's really helpful to set realistic expectations.
Well, and not necessarily appropriate for professional services. Well, let's talk a little bit about the role of the client in the video production cycle, because I know that you get asked a lot of times, well, we really want this wow effect, and we don't have any time, and we just need you to go get it done because we got a deadline. So kind of level set some expectations here and talk to us about what you're looking for from your client perspective.
Yeah, I see my role as a video producer to help solve my client's problem, but that doesn't happen in a vacuum. Most likely the client has access to assets or special industry or product service information that I just couldn't possibly know about. Proprietary things. The corporate logo somewhere. All that stuff is going to be stuff I'll need from a client, and then also reviewing the initial plan. Being potentially on set. Making sure that they're happy as we're capturing footage. On the shoot, and then during the review of the edits, you're making sure that you actually have time to watch the edits, the review copies, and make sure that you're happy with the way things are going.
No, I think that's very important to talk about because it's just like when you're having a new website designed, developed, the content is right. You need to review these things. You need to give feedback to the creative talent so that they can move forward. And, again, producing it is just part of it. Is the other question is, what are the metrics? How am I evaluating that I'm getting the return that I need? And that's when we come to, how do you evaluate the success of a video piece? So one way to think about it in professional services is, what's it worth to you to get a new client? What's it worth to you to get invited to bid on a project by a prospect who didn't know about you but found you online and then watched the video on some other similar projects that you did. We see the role of online video as a great channel for increasing the stickiness of your website. So in addition to, enhancing those connections through informing and educating, it's really about the engagement. How would you, what words of wisdom would you have to say on the metric side?
Well, I think you nailed it right there. I mean, that's really it. Is what's a client worth? I mean, if you have a client for many years, I mean, what are they worth to you? Are they worth $100,000, $1 million, like whatever it is? Let's say it's $100,000. Is it worth $10,000 to get that client? And then a video is something that, if that's going to help, tip the scales for you, that's something that's a consistent message that can be sent out, through all channels: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. And that's out there doing the work, sort of pounding the pavement like a salesman could for you. And then you do it once, and then you can keep using it over and over again. So for me, it seems like a no-brainer that a little bit of initial investment, once it's done, it's out there, it's working.
Exactly. Well, we like to say it's not the return on the investment, it's the return on the engagement.
Exactly.
And finally, the takeaways here, we talked about a lot of different things to consider, but in recapping for our attendees today, really, we're talking about understanding what it is that you want to accomplish. As Dane has mentioned, what is your goal here? What's the strategy? What are you trying to accomplish, and planning that out, with time so that you're able to have a quality product and you're able to maximize your resources. And also being authentic, being believable and credible. Again, it's no longer a time when people are reading things to get an idea of your firm. They're able to see you online. So you want to be authentic. You want to be unique. You don't need to be like everyone else. What would you say are the takeaways that our folks should remember, Dane, from your perspective?
Right. So, I think for me, I just keep coming back to this idea that, the internet is a crowded place, and it doesn't work to just, put your message out there anymore. You've got to make something that's engaging, that people want to watch, that they, when they're out there searching on the internet, that, when they're searching, that they find you, that you're the authority. And, it's really all about, in a crowded marketplace, how are you going to stand out? And I think video is just a fantastic way to do that. It's the way that people want to consume media now, and it's growing.
Well, and in professional services, it's about humanizing your company because you are talking about people. So being relatable and being the expert, just like you described. Well, I'd like to thank you today, Dane, for being our guest presenter.
You're welcome.
During this webinar. And I know that you've shared some links with us, and we weren't able to really look at all of the videos in their full um, full piece, but we're going to share that with our viewers. I'd also like to encourage everyone to, share this webinar link with your friends and colleagues, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We're going to send you our contact information. So on behalf of Hinge Marketing and the Digital Accomplice, we'd like to thank all of you for participating today, and thank you, Dane.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.